Brilliant.
Brilliant. Welcome everybody to our talk on the menopause and exercise with Claire from Women in Sport. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. It might be worth taking yourself off VPN and also the video and muting yourself just for connectivity and to be able to kind of hear clearly throughout the session. And I'll leave it up to Claire. If you've got any questions, please feel free to put it into the chat box. I will keep an eye on that as we go along, and I'll also keep an eye on the hands up system at the top. Okay, Claire, I'll leave it up to you.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Sarah. Okay. So good morning, everybody, and thanks for inviting me to speak with you today. So my name's Claire Taylor and I work for Women in Sport as an Insight Officer. So I conduct research to better understand women and girls and their relationship with sport and physical activity. So I'm really pleased today to be able to share some of our insights with you from a piece of research that we completed and published in 2018. So where we explored the impact of menopause on physical activity behaviour. So at Women in Sport, we're really interested at across all sort of life stages in girls' and women's lives. And we know that there's key points when girls and women are dropping out of physical activity. So really we want to be able to women and girls to be able to enjoy healthier and happier lives, and that's kind of what drives our organisation. So this was the first piece of research that we've done into menopause. I've literally just finished the field work for another project on menopause where we've gone kind of a little bit deeper into women's lives, and the findings from that are going to be published early next year. So just a little bit about Women in Sport, who we are. So we're a charity. We were founded in 1984. And we're the only organisation in the UK that researches sport purely from the perspective of women and girls. So there are other organisations obviously out there that are looking at women and girls, but we're the only one that does that exclusively. So what drives us? We know that women and girls are missing out on the lifelong benefits of sport, and we want to change this, and that's what drives us forward. Just to mention that primarily our focus has been about conducting insights to then pass that information on to sports organisations so that they can better support women. But we are now kind of moving into, as well as doing that, kind of talking more directly to women and girls as well with some of the campaigns that we're doing and with this piece of new menopause research going forward. So this is just a kind of a diagram to highlight that we focus on all the different stages in girls' and women's lives. So there are key points here where girls and women are dropping out, and it starts really young. It starts in kind of primary school when we start to notice these differences between boys and girls, and it kind of moves through to puberty and then at various points, like for instance when women get pregnant or they've got families. And here you'll see menopause, and we think that this is an invisible and largely ignored life stage. And these are some of the things that women are telling us, is that physical activity feels much harder, women feel less flexible, they've got less confidence. But what we know is that actually there is a desire for women to become more active, and our research told us that 71% of women who we surveyed told us that they wanted to be more active. So let's start off with some key menopause facts. So it's a natural process that all women will experience, so if they live that long. But actually, a lot of us, we're not prepared for it. And often when we start noticing physical and psychological changes, we often don't make that connection that it's actually menopause. And menopause is actually defined as when a woman has not had a period for 12 months. that woman has entered menopause. So the average age of menopause is 51, and it typically occurs between the ages of 45 and 55. So there's actually this phase that's called Peri Menopause. So actually before that point when a woman's periods stop, there can be symptoms happening. Usually the first symptom that makes women start to notice that something's starting to change is a change in the period. So kind of regularity, length, you know, noticing things like that. So it begins in midlife rather than in old age. And often the stereotype about menopause is that it's, you know, happens, you know, you're old, but actually it's happening in midlife. It could be in somebody's early 40s. So around 8 in 10 women will experience symptoms. These are really individual, so no two women will experience their symptoms in the same way. There are at least 34 symptoms, and some women may kind of go through menopause not really having any or noticing much difference, whereas somebody else may be really impacted to a greater degree. And they can last anywhere between sort of 4 and 8 years, the symptoms. And there are certain health conditions that are associated with menopause, so such as osteoporosis, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and some other things. And this is largely due to this fluctuation of hormones. So it's most notably this drop in estrogen that happens, and physical activity can actually help with these, sometimes alongside other health interventions that are maybe prescribed by a healthcare professional, or some women may choose to kind of use alternative options. Okay, so just moving on to look at physical activity participation. So the Chief Medical Officer recommends that adults aged between 19 to 64 should participate in at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity per week. It could be 75 minutes of sort of higher activity, higher intensity. So moderate intensity is where you'd be getting your heart rate up, you'd kind of feel a notice in your breathing, you feel maybe a bit sweaty. So that would be classed as somebody being active. So anybody who's doing less than 30 minutes activity a week would be classed as inactive. So these are some stats that were taken, that we put in our report when it was published. These are taken actually from Sport England Active Lives data. They have slightly changed because they publish their stats every 6 months. So this top one here, 38%, it's actually now 39% of women are not achieving those guidelines of 150 minutes. Actually, the second one here, it's now gone down to 19%, so less than 20% of women are inactive. And this stat was from the report, so 30% of women that we surveyed said that they were less active during menopause. So we know that women are becoming less active during this time. Okay. So just a little bit about the research and why we decided to do it. We'd done another piece of research the year before where we were looking at women in later life and the things that were stopping them from being more active. And menopause came up as a time that really presents a number of challenges for women. And when we looked around, we found that there was really, very little research out there about menopause, and even less about physical activity. So we felt we wanted to know more about it. So we set up a research project involving women aged 45 to 60 to find out more about what the barriers were that they faced to being active, and then how sport providers could support them better to maintain being physically active. So mixed methods approach, quantitative and qual, an online survey and some focus groups where we spoke to women around the country in different places. So yeah, carried out in 2017 and then published in 2018. And this just shows you a kind of a model that we developed out of a previous piece of research that we did. So before the Silver Linings one, 2015, what we wanted to do was to really understand women's lives, so broadly, so not just about physical activity, but about the things that are important in women's lives. Because if we know what's important, then sports providers can better sort of support women and find ways of encouraging them to be more active that is in line with things that are important in their lives. So these 6 values came out of the research. So these are things that are really important to women, and certain times of a woman's life, the things are going to be more important. For example, coming up to big events, like getting married, there'll be different values that are more important to women. So in terms of menopause, we looked at this model with the women in the research to find out which values were particularly important at this time. And we found that these 3 that are standing out here, feeling good, looking good, and nurturing friends and family, were really important. So feeling good was the top one. So women want to give themselves more me time, make themselves more of a priority. They want to be healthy, they want to be looking after themselves, they want to feel good. Looking good was important as well, because menopause comes with many physical changes, which can have a real impact on women. And so actually looking good is kind of a way of being able to manage that. And also nurturing friends and family. And, it's important to note, as I said at the beginning, menopause is happening in midlife rather than later life. And so many of the women did have young children, and you think that women are having children later these days. This was a really important value for women in the research as well. Okay, so this, I'm not going to use lots and lots of models throughout this, but this was the model that we used in the menopause research. And it's called the COM-B. So it's a model of behaviour change which says that people's behaviour is based on these 3 main areas: capability, opportunity, and motivation. So in order for women to change their behaviour, so to be able to become more active, they must be able to have the capability, opportunity, and motivation to do so. So we need to make sure that women have these 3 things. So we use these 3 categories to look at the barriers that women face during this time. So let's start with capability. So not surprisingly, perhaps, symptoms were a significant barrier preventing women from taking part in physical activity. So these symptoms included both physical and psychological, so things like fatigue, weight gain, hot flushes, sore muscles and joints, anxiety, low mood, and a general dissatisfaction with life. These were things that were really affecting women. And again, in the research that we've just completed, this was really highlighted again. And I think what really stood out from the most recent research is just the impact of lack of sleep. Often women are just feeling exhausted, which then leaves them with low motivation and capability to take part in exercise. So also associated with capability is low self-efficacy. So the physical changes of menopause and the fear of deteriorating health can leave women feeling that they have low confidence in their ability to exercise. So they may see themselves as less capable, weak, fragile, and prone to injury, and often unsure about what exercise they should be doing. That's a real big barrier. So let's move on to opportunity. So there is still a lot of stigma around menopause, even though it's now being talked about more and you're seeing more women in the public eye coming out and talking about it. There's still a lot of stigma around it. And a lack of social support for women can act as significant barriers. So it's a taboo subject with many negative associations. So a lot of what you read about it and you hear about it when it is talked about is often very negative. So there can be a lot of shame around it, really, which seems absolutely crazy, doesn't it, when you think that it's a completely natural process that's going to affect all women. Why should it be like that? So women can fear being labelled things such as incapable, out of control, or past it, which can lead them to withdraw socially. And physical activity and environments can seem particularly intimidating for women who have not been active for a while, and they will fear that judgment from other people. And often they'll have women who are not active will have less kind of people in their social circles who are active as well. So this then leads on to motivation. So although women are aware of the health benefits of being more active, I think most people know that it's a good thing to be active and that it's good for your health. But actually, that doesn't lead into that behaviour change. Just knowing that doesn't, because changing those habits often feels too difficult, and it has physical and emotional risks. It's kind of making people vulnerable, putting themselves out there. So actually taking that first hurdle and taking that first step can just seem like too great an obstacle. So those were the barriers that we looked at from the research. Okay, and then just a brief sort of look at the meaning of menopause to women and what it represents. So this is really important to their engagement in physical activity. So due to the physical and emotional changes that occur, it can lead to feelings of loss, which can be really distressing for women. So the diagram to the right highlights the different ways that women can experience this loss and what it means to them. So many of the things that are associated with being attractive as a woman in society, so youth, femininity, if I can say that word properly, fertility and health. So women may lose their sense of self and their identity and feel that they have less control over their lives, as these three quotes sort of mention at the bottom. And I think in relation to fertility in children, I think for women who maybe haven't, the fertility hasn't gone as they would have liked it to, and then maybe they weren't able to have children or not as many children as they would have liked, that sense of feeling of loss can be felt particularly acutely. But menopause and midlife can bring it with it an opportunity for women to reappraise their lives and to think about where they want to make changes, which for some does prompt them to think about changing their physical activity behaviours. So being active can give women a sense of empowerment and control, helping them to manage the impact of some of their symptoms, as well as giving them an opportunity to improve their health and to make more time for themselves. So these quotes at the bottom illustrate how women involved in this research were reevaluating and reappraising different areas of their life. So kind of a change in perception, it's a time to reevaluate and think, kind of focus on yourself more. So it's not all negative. There does come with it like this transition, this journey of change. So let's just have a look at what some of the benefits of being active through menopause are. So as I mentioned a bit earlier, there are health issues that rise out of menopause. So weakened bones and other conditions such as diabetes, stroke and heart disease. It's largely due to the reduced levels of estrogen, the fluctuating hormone levels, which really kind of affects this. But the good news is that regular exercise can help prevent or manage these conditions and improve health and well-being in a number of ways. So we've got the strengthening muscle and stopping bone decline. So in the first 5 years of menopause, women can lose around 10% of their bone mass. So exercise can help to stop this decline because bone is actually a living tissue which grows stronger in reaction to increasing loads and forces. And so similarly, we lose muscle mass as we get older, leaving us at risk of falls and fractures, but regular exercise can slow this down too. So also for cardiovascular health, so during and after menopause, women are at increased risk of cardiovascular disease. So regular exercise helps to maintain a healthy cholesterol and reduces the risk of high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease. And it also helps with improving balance and also around maintaining a healthy weight. So again, those falling levels of estrogen can lead to a greater fat distribution around your middle. So regular exercise alongside a healthy balanced diet can help to manage this. Feeling good, I think this one's really important. We want to feel good. And when we exercise, we release feel-good chemicals called endorphins, which can really sort of help to transfer this into positive energy and improve mental health. So I really, think that's a really important one. And also in terms of managing menopause symptoms. So in terms of managing menopause symptoms, I think one of the symptoms that gets the most amount of attention that everybody associates with menopause is the hot flushes, and hot flushes that affect many women, but there's lots of other symptoms that come with menopause. So the evidence as to whether exercise is an effective treatment for hot flushes is inconclusive, so there's been lots of research done onto it. But we do know that the many benefits of exercise mean that it is good for our general health, and it can also help with many of the other symptoms associated with menopause. Women report sleeping better when they exercise, even though they think because they're so tired they're not going to be able to do it, but actually it does give more energy. And there was a study in 2016 of Latin American women aged between 40 and 59, and they found that those who had a more sedentary lifestyle were more likely to experience severe menopausal symptoms than physically active women. So there's although it might not completely take away menopause symptoms, and sometimes women, it's not a case of saying, oh, exercise replaces other methods, for example, things like HRT. Sometimes it's finding a combination of things that work. Okay. So what types of exercise are good? So there's broadly two types of exercise that are good for bone health, because remember that bone is declining and will be of particular benefit during this time. So we've got the weight-bearing exercises, so exercises that use your feet and legs to support your weight, so including brisk walking, jogging or running, dancing, aerobics, or activities such as badminton and tennis. And then you've got exercises, strength exercises that use your muscles to pull on your bones, which will boost your bone strength, including, body weight strength exercise such as press-ups, or exercises that use weights or resistance bands, things like that. So just some kind of ideas of different sorts of exercise and how they might be good. So we've got walking or jogging. These are really great for a healthy heart. It's anything with like sort of skipping, hopping or jumping, and you do things like that in netball, that's a great way to strengthen the bones. as I've already mentioned. We need to strengthen those. Is somebody got a question? No? Okay. Stretching is a fantastic way to combat muscle and joint aches, which are a common symptom of menopause. So as I'm kind of moving up towards my mid-40s, I am finding that I need to stretch so much more than I used to. Resistance and strength training, as I've already mentioned, they're vital to prevent the loss of muscle as we get older. So dancing, an all-round exercise that benefits your physical and your mental and emotional health. So really one of those kind of feel-good activities that feels good to do. Yoga, I've also started doing lots more of this year, particularly through lockdown actually, and I've just found just my body appreciates all that extra sort of stretching and yoga. Swimming or aerobics, they're really good for your cardiovascular health, so your heart and your lungs, and as there's no impact, they're really kind to your joints as well. So, and also exercise videos and online classes, which I know we're seeing a lot more of this year due to kind of lockdowns and restrictions on sort of activities that we can do. And they're a really good way of fitting something into your life, especially, if you're really busy and you've got family. Climbing the stairs is a simple but effective way to get your heart pumping and burn calories. And this just reminds me of one of the women who I spoke to in this most recent piece of research, who was completing sort of like an activity exploration. And she told me, she said, I live about 10 minutes away from the train station. So I just walk over there and there's these flights of stairs, there's about 80 stairs. And I just love to go up and down a few times up the stairs because I really feel it. I feel really sweaty and I really feel like I've worked hard. So that was something that she liked to do. And also it's good to do things with other people and to challenge yourself, maybe setting a goal such as a charity event that you can work towards with other people to encourage each other. Okay, so I've just got a couple of case studies to share with you from the research. So this is Jane. So Jane is in her mid-50s and she's got two sort of older children. She works full time. She's quite busy and she has been going through menopause for 4 years. I don't know at what point on the menopause journey Jane is, but she is inactive, so doing less than 30 minutes exercise a week. She did used to keep active before entering menopause, but shortly after she stopped and she hasn't done anything since really. She's tired, she lacks energy, she's got those aches and she's been steadily gaining weight. She can't bring herself to let go of her gym membership because she doesn't want to cancel it just in case. So she wants to exercise more, but she believes that if she does, it's going to worsen her symptoms. And she has a lack of confidence in her ability to be active and is unsure of what to do and how to get started again. So I think with somebody like Jane, it's really important that she's kind of gets the right information and the right support, that she kind of can be supported to know that actually to exercise is not going to make those symptoms worse, and to kind of find ways of engaging her that's going to help her to build her confidence. So we would work with sports organisations to help them support women like Jane. And then we've got Amanda, so she's a little bit younger, kids are a bit younger. She also works full time and she's been going, again, I don't know what part of the menopause journey she's on, but 3 years, and she is active. So she was fairly active before menopause. But then after having children, she found that she didn't have, she had less time to do exercise because her kids were fairly young, and she had different menopause symptoms, hot flushes and night sweats, and she kind of experienced this lull in her exercise levels. But she didn't like the feeling that she had, and she really wanted to do something about it. And so to encourage her and to motivate her, she took on a personal trainer because she needed that help and support to know what activities she could do. So that really helped her. And going back to thinking about those values that I spoke about earlier, she really valued the values that, you know, it gave her more me time and time away from her family, and it was kind of some space for her. And she gradually started to feel, you know, she felt those benefits. She started sleeping better, she had more energy, and she felt like the old her was coming back. So we need to keep women like Amanda from dropping off. So when we speak to organisations in the sports sector about how to help women going through menopause, here's what we say to them. We say that the life stage of menopause presents an opportunity to re-engage women in exercise. It's that time when they're re-evaluating, and that can be used as an opportunity. So we also tell them to tap into the strong desire that women have to do more, because we know that women want to do more, but the conditions need to be right for them to do so. It's not a kind of a one size fits all. We need to think about what those barriers are and how women can be supported to kind of move around those barriers and through them. We also talk about exercise as therapy, and that physical activity can help to manage some of those symptoms and the perception of those symptoms. So there's more research evidence coming out to support this all the time, but we all know that the health and well-being benefits of physical activity. And we tell them that you know, women are primed to be more active in menopause. They do want to take back control, and they do want to redefine themselves. They are actively seeking support, and they can use these channels to target women to be more active. So it is easy to change behaviour during a natural stage of reappraisal and transition. And then just to finish, just a few useful resources. If you wanted to do some, you know, kind of do some more research. So Dr. Louise Newson, I think she's really good. She's got this book. I'm not commissioned by her to promote it, but it's quite good. It's got a lot of information in there about sort of, you know, what menopause is, the symptoms, how they can be managed, HRT, other options, exercise and lifestyle changes. And she's also got a website where a lot of the information in there you can get for free on a website. There's also the Peri Menopause Hub, which is a really useful website. So that's run by somebody called Emily Barclay, who's actually a personal trainer. And she's got lots of different kind of health-related well-being type professionals all on this website. So you could go on there, and if maybe there's a specific area that you're interested in, then you could find somebody who might be able to help you. And she's also got a Facebook group, which is really good. So there's lots of other women on there who are all going through various changes. Her Spirit is more fitness and sport related. So it's an online app. They're actually based in Nottingham. It's an online app where there's different things that there's all sorts on there. It's free to join for the first month. So there's lots of different coaches on there. It's aimed at all women. So whether you're really active or whether you're just wanting to get into more exercise, they've got lots of different kind of initiatives on there. So things to help you maybe get back into running or cycling or swimming. There's lots of resources on there and podcasts, and it's really great. And then there's Meno Health, which is kind of menopause specific classes. So this year, less of those have been done kind of physically, and a lot more are done online. So each class lasts for an hour. And the first part of that would be kind of being able to talk to other women, kind of share experiences. So there's a social element of it, because we know that that is often really important to women. And then there's the kind of the exercise class as well. So you can find out more on the website. Here's another one, which is some podcasts, postcards from midlife, and they're done by Lorraine Candy. Now, she's actually just become our midlife ambassador at Women in Sports. We're really, really excited about that. She's just written her first blog on our website. So she's an author and a journalist, and she's been quite outspoken about menopause, and a lot of her podcasts focus on different aspects of menopause. So you can go online and find those. And then lastly, another online one, Positive Pause. So they're really trying to, as I said earlier, a lot of what we read in society and the media about menopause is really negative. So they're trying to kind of make it more positive. And there's lots of resources and things on their website as well. So thank you. I know that was a lot of information. I feel like I've just all this information. I did feel like maybe I should have stopped at some point and say, is everybody okay? But thank you so much for inviting me. There's the various, you can get in contact with me there at the email address, or go on our website, and there's lots more research reports on our website. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, Claire, for that. It was really interesting, and I think one thing that I kind of took away from that is, even though I'm not at the stage of perimenopause or anything like that, the importance of just continue to be doing strength work and weight bearing, and the fact that our bone and muscle declines quite rapidly during those times. So I'll be definitely taking that away for myself. I'm just going to open it up now. We are still recording, so if you want to be anonymous, please write your questions in the chat box and I can read them out. But if anyone's got any questions, please raise your hand or write them in the chat box. That'd be brilliant. I was just also looking in the chat box as well. Mel has just put on the group that she was part of the group, the app.
Her Spirit,
yeah. So she's part of the group, and she says it's fab, and that they've got a nutrition and menopause support also on there.
I forgot to mention that. Yeah, they do, because they've got various different groups on there, and they've got one about menopause. So women post things in there, and there's videos and things. Yeah, it's really fantastic. I'd definitely recommend it.
Has anybody got any questions or anything like that? Please raise your hand if you do.
Yeah.
Rachel, you've just asked about the recording. Yeah, I'll be sending the recording out once that's all sorted as well. Linda, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I was just taking my microphone off then. Yeah, hi, thank you for that, Claire. I thought it was really interesting. So I'm actually a physio, so I'm very sort of pro, exercise and the benefits, but I am a pelvic health physio as well. So a lot of the ladies that I do see are menopausal and have issues with prolapse and continence, and that's a particular, I think, barrier, because those symptoms do increase. And so I think it's really important for those ladies to exercise, but I think sometimes it's the type of exercise they're doing. So, when you said about like jogging and running, I wouldn't actually promote those, well, depending how they do it, but so I'd be a bit sort of wary about that, and we tend to say more like swimming, cycling, non-weight bearing for cardiovascular. And also I know one of the ladies that you used as an example. She did Pilates, but that I think is, you know, an absolutely brilliant way of exercising, particularly if you do have, you know, problems with pelvic health. So
no, I think that's a really, really good point that you make there. It is a massive issue. Yeah.
It is so important, isn't it? I guess every woman is different. I guess it all depends on what their kind of circumstances are. But yeah, thank you, Linda. I think that's really kind of good to kind of bear in mind.
Yeah, and I think that this is a thing. I mean, I'm not like you know, a qualified menopause sort of fitness specialist. So I think, you know, for each individual woman, I think it is important to get kind of tailored. This is why I'm saying it's not a kind of a one size fits all. Probably for some women running may be okay, but for other women with pelvic floor issues, it's not. So yeah, we need that tailored approach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Linda. I've got just looking at the chat box. So Jane has put, have you any recommendations on recognising the menopause, perimenopause? And then also a good bra if you're running as well is key.
I don't have that problem, but yeah, I think there is a menopause checklist that you could go online and you could find a menopause checklist, and I think kind of go through the checklist and sort of tick off how many different ones kind of apply to you. I think I heard somebody say if you've got maybe then you might want to think about going to see a health professional. But again, like I said at the beginning, it's really, really individual to each woman. But there's a lot of symptoms. So yeah, I think just kind of checking.
Yeah, I think there's the resources that you've put on the end of your presentation are quite good as well to use as well. I think they have got a lot of key things.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Dr. Louise Newson website is like a brilliant one to go to. I think she's got, she's a trained menopause specialist, so often GPs who might be your first point of call to go to if you're experiencing menopause symptoms, you're not guaranteed that when you go to see them that they are a trained menopause specialist. So I think if you are thinking about going to visit GP, I think it is a good idea to maybe have a look at somebody like Louise Newton, and they can help you to kind of think about what you might want to say and present it. So
thanks. Jane, also I can I'll put on the chat after the presentation as well. There's a few other resources as well that I can post on there for you as well.
Another thing that's come out of the research a lot is the importance of women starting to track. I know particularly a lot of the women kind of on the Peri Menopause Hub, and Emily, who set it up, just kind of stresses this importance of starting to track your cycle. And then you can start to notice these changes, and you kind of, then you've got the evidence there when you do maybe want to go and kind of get healthcare advice. You're already kind of informed.
Yeah, I think sorry, it's Jane. What I think I find difficult, I have a Mirena coil, so I don't have periods. Right. So I don't know whether my periods have stopped, and I still get sort of premenstrual symptoms, but then and then I'm having trouble sleeping, I'm having headaches, but I don't know whether that's doing my menopause or whether that's just life. And that's what I struggle with, because everybody says, oh, it's your periods, but I've not had a period for years because I've got this coil. So that's what I struggle with.
Maybe the symptom tracking might be quite helpful for you then, and kind of track the symptoms. Maybe that is something that you can then take forward to your GP.
Yeah. Have a look at that. Yeah, thank you.
I agree. It's a very confusing time because sometimes you're like, is it? You know, it's one of those things you don't know where you are. And often if you go and have a blood test, because those those hormone levels are fluctuating so much, they might say, oh, well, no, you're not. And often I think the response is to women like, oh, you're too young, you know, and I think it's very confusing.
What's interesting for me, I have 3 teenage daughters and their cycle always comes at the same time. So when they're on their periods, I get really premenstrual symptoms of breasts, you know, all those sort of premenstrual symptoms. So then I think, oh, I must be all right still, but yeah, it's confusing.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you, I've enjoyed that.
Thank you, Jane, for the question. Christine, you've got your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much, Claire. That was really interesting talk, and really resonates with me, as it I'm sure it does with a lot of the people on the audience. Now, can you hear me? I can see Sarah leaning in.
It's my connection's not very good at the moment. It's okay.
So my question, it's more of an interest, really, Claire. I am the army reservist, and I find that since I tipped into the menopause arena, I became more conscious of how it might affect fitness, performance, and you know, the like for women in the armed forces. And for us, when we are in a male-dominated environment, it can be very daunting in terms of acknowledging that it is there, acknowledging that it might affect our performance or from a fitness level, and is looking at how we might maximize, accept it and maximize our performance. And I just wondered how I can link with you later, just to look at how you might help me in looking into how big the problem is and how it impacts on women in armed forces in terms of fitness and performance. And like the tools that you've given us through this presentation, in how we can empower them to acknowledge that it is there, it's not a problem, they don't have to be stigmatized about it, but also creating a general awareness within the male colleagues to make them feel, oh, you're being menopausal. That sort of thing. So I would be interested in looking into how big the problem is and how we can help change behaviors and culture.
Brilliant. No, it's so important. Yeah, I'd be really happy to. My email address is on the end. Well, the slide's gone now, hasn't it? But I'd be happy to take your details and kind of follow this up with you, Christine. I agree. There's so much that we need to do about kind of changing perceptions and changing culture. I think it's quite interesting, actually. We the most recent research that we've just done, we had kind of like a sort of an expert group at the end to kind of share the findings and to come together with different kind of sectors, so sports sector, health sector, and people from kind of businesses and employers. And we really wanted to have men involved in the conversation as well, and we really tried to get some kind of male colleagues to come along, but unfortunately it was still only women who attended. So I agree, we do need to kind of involve men as well, because that's how we're going to change culture, isn't it? So yeah, I don't know, I could get your details maybe through Sarah or through I've forgotten, sorry, her name. Alison, yes.
Yeah, well, we can sort something out. I can do an email and things like that. So sort that. Is that okay, Christine?
Yes, thank you, Sarah. That would be great. Thank you, Claire. I look forward to connecting with you.
I noticed Mel had her hand up. Have you still got a question?
Sorry, I off. It's just it's not a question as such. I just wanted to say how helpful I'd found it, because I'm a TI and I work with physios and OT, but I work with patients with neurological conditions and a lot of ladies that have got MS. So, I mean, I'm very advocate in moving, and it's all kinds of movement, gentle movement, which again, graded exercise to get somebody. But, you know, thinking of a young lady that's got MS and then she's approaching the menopause as well. So to sort of like just put her in touch with some of these links alongside, you know, with the MS Society, like that would be, it's really, really good to know how positive exercise is rather than me just you know.
Just
wanted to say thank you for that. Because everything that I do, I always try and take back to our patients, and my training that I do, exercises and that. And I've got to say, I can't praise their spirit enough. They've helped me turn a corner recently through the lockdown. So
brilliant. Thanks, Melanie.
No problem. Thank you very much for it.
Will I send the slides with the links on? Yeah, I can certainly do that. I can share the slides, definitely. Yeah.
Thanks, Claire. Any last questions or anything like that? We've just got a lot of feedback, which is like, thank you. Really interesting and really informative. And yeah, really useful to have the presentation. So any last questions before we end? No, I think that's it. I think we're done. Thank you so much, Claire, for that. I think that was really informative, and it was really kind of insightful to like know exactly what happens as well during the life of a woman, really, as well, and the dips and the flows and of the life cycle as well, and then how important it is to exercise and look after ourselves during the menopause and perimenopause. So thank you so much for your time.
And just to say, because I know people mentioned they have sort of like teenage daughters as well, we've done a lot of work around puberty as well, and I think there's huge kind of similarities between sort of puberty and menopause. So if anybody is interested in finding out more about that, then please do go to our website. We've got loads of stuff and resources on there. So yeah. Okay, I'll share the presentation anyway. So thanks so much for having me and all your questions and comments.
Brilliant. Thank you, Claire. I'll just record. There we go.
Great, and have a lovely Christmas break and your Zoom